Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Is the August House discussing critical issues of the nation? Well, Honorable Chimosho, what do you think should preoccupy Parliament in the next days and weeks as you wind up?
Parliament, in its nature, whether now or tomorrow or the coming parliaments, what should preoccupy any parliament of the world are issues that concern the citizens, legislations that concern citizens, policies that concern citizens. And that's what should preoccupy Parliament in the remaining few days. Apparently,
if you could cite some of the issues.
Apparently, the remaining few days we are talking about, we are going to be handling ministerial policy statements, and we're going into final budgeting for the coming financial year. So that will be our preoccupation. And that's why you hear the withdrawals of bills today, some bills that and motions that were withdrawn. It's because Parliament for them, and they can be reintroduced in the next Parliament. Because then the left time is now for ministerial policy statements to process them, and then we come up with a budget. Maybe if you want us to scrutinize on how pro-people the budget will be, but that is maybe at a later time. But this Parliament, you mentioned a few things. On the lower side of it, members of Parliament involved in corruption scandals, transactional budgets, where some members were arrested. Yes, those can happen once in a while in a society like this, where
do you treat them in isolation, or they've come to be the big taglines of your Parliament?
You should have actually started with what we have achieved in terms of our legislation. And when you are assessing any institution, for that matter, this specific parliament, then you would compare it with previous parliaments in terms of the legislations that were passed, the policies, the pro-people initiatives, and I think we have performed. We are on record that we have performed in terms of coming up. There's the local content bill that we passed. It's an act. Ugandans can now participate in trading within their country, buy Uganda, build Uganda. There are many. We have passed out of 150-something bills that were presented. The last time I checked, I think only 19 had not been processed. In our first session, we did like 23. Second session, we did around 24. In the third session, we did around 48, and we are still working.
Yeah, but how haunting is the key moment where the president had to reject the budget, return it to the House?
You see, that's a longer debate. Maybe you invite us the next time. And what was the reason for rejection? Because
that's historic, isn't it?
It is historic, but for its own reasons. And the reason...
And it's a big hallmark on the 11th Parliament.
But you see, the framers of the law envisaged that such a thing can happen. And they even put ways how it can be resolved. And it happened. You see, the major thing in this world is not to face the challenge, is how you overcome it. So if I am assessing the 11th Parliament, I'll look at the legislations, the pro-people initiatives, and maybe the post-legislation scrutiny, and how we have done the monitoring and oversight. So if on a scale of 100, we get a 70, then we have exceptionally performed as a parliament.
Honorable Namuga, do you imagine the 11th Parliament is handling critical business as Parliament comes to a wrap? And which are the issues that you feel are hard-pressing?
First of all, allow me to appreciate colleagues, members of Parliament, of the 11th Parliament and the leadership for accepting the responsibility, no matter the hurdles. I know we have done something, but I believe there is a lot that has not been done. Not necessarily that Parliament didn't want to, but because of the institutional challenges that existed. Because your service, for you to score yourself a 70% of the Honorable Chimosho's score, you must look at yourself. Leave alone, he has said we have legislation, we have done oversight. But for me, I'm looking at the output. Yes, you've passed the laws, but look at the public perception of how Parliament has been doing business. Yes, the laws have been passed. What is the impact? We agree some laws have been passed, but post-legislation we had some kind of challenges when it comes to implementation of the laws that we've put in place. In relation to the current challenges within the country. For example, we have just concluded the 2026 elections, and everyone would have thought that this is a matter that ought to have been discussed by Parliament the time we resumed, because it was bloody, brutal, militarized. Every component was in the elections. The reason as to why I'm bringing out this is because we must get feedback from the public. Our services must be felt. We've had for the last 5 years, we've poorly performed when it comes to budget performance. The planning was we passed budgets. We have been doing the oversight, but service delivery on the side of output has been very low. I'm speaking in the context of number one, I've ever been part of the budget committee, but also these 2.5 years on the side of accountability, in the side of Park Central. 80% of the money that was approved, the funds that were approved for capital development, consumption has been very low, close to 80%. All the activities were under partial implementation. For the last audit report, we failed to consume close to 6.8 trillion. Money borrowed, expensively, interests are paid, commitment fees, but not consumed. We have we have approved loans. We have approved loans, but they have not performed. So because of the institutional challenges, because Parliament cannot work alone, we got a report of the Auditor General on the implementation of parliamentary resolutions through the Treasury Memoranda. The performance was at 30%. Yes, Parliament has done something good, but when it goes to the side of the executive, implementation is zero. And once we are not felt by the public, to me, that indicates that we've not done well. Number two, when you look at the area of service delivery, for example, there has been a public outcry in the area of, say, the state of referral hospitals, the state of regional hospitals, even the national hospitals. So you cannot claim that, Parliament, you are doing your part. You ask for the drugs, there is no money. Then one asks, who does the priority? Who prioritizes what we should spend on? People see a very bloated budget of 78 trillion with a lot of, wish lists. We shall have this road, we shall have this road. Some time back, you saw the Minister of Works. He came to the floor of Parliament and said, there are some roads that are not going to be worked on. We are stalling these ones. We shall continue with this, but at a slow pace. So much as we pass the budget, how practical is this budget? Has the public felt, the impact of a budget that has been approved by Parliament? I should inform the country that, for me, something I thought of as Parliament, we would have compelled the Minister of Finance, that is the executive, to come out with a budget that is realistic. And that has hit us across board. The unfunded priorities are simply too many, but the budget is bloated, coupled with so many supplementaries.
Do you feel haunted by your failure?
For me, yes, I feel.
To block supplementaries and to block the anti-people legislation like the Coffee Amendment, the UPDF, and others?
No, definitely. For me, I personally feel touched with some of these actions and inactions that have surfaced in the 11th Parliament. Number one, the bills you are talking about, the Coffee, the UPDF bill, that was regrettable on our colleagues this side. Because we have never seen a Parliament pass laws after being, brutalized. You saw the SFC in Parliament. Where could that happen? And that went unchecked. But for me, that aside, Because if you cannot respect leaders, then how can you respect the citizens of the country? But for me, the most haunting part is how have we delivered in the perspective of serving the people? Parliament had all the powers to compel the executive and the Minister of Finance to have a genuine discussion about a realistic budget that could be implementable, because we looked into the performance of the last 5 years. The most we did was a 53, 54 trillion. And for the financial 26-27, we are discussing a budget of close to 69 trillion. One asks, how could you have that, that reduction from now 78 that was plus supplemental is goes close to 80 trillion plus, then to 69. So for me, I feel it has been a very big disservice to the people, because once a budget is not realistic, you cannot assume that you have served the people in any way.
Thank you. Honorable Sirwanyi, talking actions and inactions, of course. This parliament generally has been billed as, in the public eye, hugely corrupt. You saw the parliamentary exhibition, a parliament that is lavish, a parliament that is indifferent to the outcries of the people, passing laws that do not seem really to rhyme with the interests of the public. Do you think in the coming days and weeks you can make good?
Yeah, first of all, what I would like to tell the country is that in the coming days, there are basically 4 critical matters that we have to handle as Parliament. One has already been talked about, I think, by Honorable Kimosho. The proposals, the government proposals under the ministerial policy statements. What government is going to do. And today, the whole afternoon, different ministries were laying the ministerial policy statements. And then 2 is the budget that we are going to start, I think, at the end or middle of next month. That will be concluded early May before swearing in. And then taxation, the tax bills that must be handled, because that is now the source of revenue that will finance the budget. And that is a very critical matter as the 3rd issue. And then the 4th issue is oversight.
How do you put scandals behind you?
Members, I'm coming to that. Members have to work hard, especially committees of oversight like the Public Accounts Committee, in this critical time to see that they follow up. Coming on issues of corruption and
the big scandals
and the blackmail that has been in media, some of which is not true, I think I first of all want to thank the President, because the President came out to support Parliament, and you are talking about the President bouncing the budget and sending the budget back. A budget, and to any Ugandan who is sending, a budget is a bill. When you send the budget to the President, it's like a bill that has been sent to the President for assent. The President can assent the bill on the bill or send it back to Parliament.
It was embarrassing.
Because it is not, because this is the law. It is a bill. It is called the appropriation bill. That's the budget. So you send it to the President. The President has sent so many bills back to Parliament, and he will raise issues that in this area, I have this and this and this. And when the matter is handled, the President then assents to the bill. So there is no issue. In this Parliament, we had a lot of blackmail, especially talking about corruption. Some had facts. You saw the President, when the President talked about Parliament being corrupt in Kololo, and members of Parliament were arrested. These members of Parliament were found, there was no evidence on them. You saw. And
that date of being scandalous.
And government, and the
11th Parliament has been scandalous.
And they withdrew, I saw DPP withdrawing the counts against the Honorable Namunju and the Honorable Akamba, people who were in prison, saying that they are innocent. So once they vindicate you and say that you are innocent, I mean, these allegations may have not been true. And I want to thank President Museveni, because he has really supported Parliament. Even when what you're talking about, saying that he refused to assent to a bill, I think he had issues that he was raising on the bills. And these matters were sorted out by us the members of parliament.
He had to arm twist you
No. He discussed
to reallocate money that was meant for ambulances.
The president was told that we have removed money from critical areas to ambulances, and the president invited us for a discussion. The president invited us for a discussion that we are putting health centers in different areas that are not critical. And when we discussed with the president, he realized.
No.
And President Museveni is one person that will listen.
Money was diverted towards Magola.
No. Actually, the president proposed, because Magola was coming up with a very serious pharmaceutical industry in Matuga, and that was very critical. I know about that industry. I've visited it. I have gone to that farm. It's something that is very critical. They wanted money particularly for that plant. And it is a plant that was producing medicine. I think medicine,
let me tell you what the public perceived.
For cancer.
That Parliament would not stand up to the president to show him sense in procuring ambulances over allocating money to Magola.
You see, you cannot say it is allocating money to Magola. You don't look at the individual. Look at the critical matter that is being handled. And
that outweighed ambulances.
And that is why some of us, this is my personal opinion, if I had chance, the blessing that Uganda has got is that of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. If I had the power to reverse the age and of the president, is some person that we still need in this country. Because to look critically at what Magola is doing, the medicine for cancer, the medicine for vaccines for malaria, when you go to that plant, you'll get amazed. I visited that plant, I went to Matuga, I saw what they were doing for malaria vaccines, what they were doing for cancer vaccines, and it was something very critical. Before I went there, I did not know. I thought having an ambulance would be more important than such a plant. But when I visited the plant, I realized it is a very important thing that is going to help the country move a big level. And I was one of the people who started by opposing. Don't give Magola money. I thought it was something small. But when I visited the farm, I was shocked, and I realized that President Museveni is looking at a bigger vision.
Honorable Mbidde, how will the 11th Parliament go down in the annals of history?
Of course, this is a post-mortem. We are generally telling the population the cause of death. Because it is late now, they can't do much. This parliament did not prepare the population for what 2025, 2026 entails. This has been a financial year. This is a financial year where government ought to have been prepared. I can see State House itself now running up and down, doing its own work, despite Parliament. This is an era of what we call the job apocalypse. Even the World Economic Forum actually concluded recently on the same. We ought to have prepared the population for a change of the employment infrastructure caused by rapid development in technology. We ought to have prepared the population for a digital-led, youth-led economic process in Uganda. We ought to have led government to also establish itself as a government that contemplated the financing of artificial intelligence. Because there is going to be dire, and it has already started, for all first entry job applicants for white-collar professionals. They are all going to have no work to do, despite the production levels by universities for qualifications of that nature.
No, I want us to judge. I want us to judge Parliament along the cardinal roles: oversight, budgeting.
Now, if you are to budget, those are the areas now where they ought to have concentrated the budgeting experience of Parliament and work roles of Parliament. Like Honorable Surani said, I don't know where you are going to come up with an explanation. It is now trite knowledge. I would want you to dispose of that allegation if you have got factual material against it. No. Only.
The fact person.
Do you have a product list of what they produce?
I didn't come with it because I was not.
And it is not listed anywhere. If it is, we would ask NBS to definitely produce that product list.
Cancer vaccine.
If it goes anywhere beyond fragile, we would definitely be
actually they are
useful to the population.
I just want to mention this. There are 2 factories. There is even a small factory in Intinda. The factory that was...
For the record, what's the name of the drug?
I can get the names of the drugs. I have everything because we visited. I was on that.
I will allow you time to Google. I will allow you time to Google.
And Simon,
I'm going to check. And
Simon, I would like also
like Microhem,
our colleagues here.
Laboratory. You know it in Intenda. They are producing vaccines for malaria.
I would like our colleagues here to also take the population through whether Parliament has got a procedure, a training procedure for oversight on medicinal practices and production. You see, oversight is a qualitative job. It is based on knowledge. You don't oversight by seeing. If the material to be oversighted is actually scientific and technological in nature. So Parliament needed to have developed procedures and processes.
But Sirwani tells you what he saw.
Yeah, but that is for the naked eye.
But we went with the technical people. I just didn't see with the eyes.
Yes, but you see, you did not emerge with the product list.
Minister of Health and
yes. So the list is not there. Now, budget itself requires, of course, substantial, provable product lists to be funded. So oversight by Parliament, by the way, the honorable colleagues will agree with me and Simon and the viewers. It is a very technical matter where Parliament needs substantial training.
That is the day.
Huh? No. We want to look at the product.
The product,
not the website.
Serious.
The general view is that they are engaged in the production of fragile and nothing else.
All these they are producing.
Vaccines have names. No. For the benefit of our viewers.
Let me tell the viewers. They are talking about.
You allocated the money.
They are talking
today.
about biologics and therapeutics. They are talking about medicine, including infectious medicines for cancer.
What is that document?
And chronic conditions.
Have a look.
Do you want to share the document or you're checking their website?
No, I will share with you.
No. What are you checking? What is the source?
Particularly, what is that?
This is...
It could be Google material for a different company in Zambia. We want particularly now.
You see now, I don't want to go into what the Honorable Mukasa Mbidde, my guild president, is saying. It is blackmail.
No. You allocated the money towards Magora.
I am reading something about Day Biopharmaceutical that is located in Matuga. How is it not authentic when
I think it's very
What is that?
When a committee
where are you reading that from?
of Parliament visited
the place. When are you reading that? We equally visited with the leader of opposition. We equally visited. Where are you reading that from?
And do you want to say that when you visited,
do you want to give me the brief?
They were making tiles.
Do you want to get the briefs of what we found?
And do
you want to get these briefs?
I think this is very important because it's about allocating taxpayers' money.
My view on this, and I don't want to risk to speak on behalf of Day Farmer. What we should examine is the spirit. If any money was given to Day Farmer, what was the spirit? What did we intend to address?
How about the outcome?
Now, we can then go into the analysis
and how much
of the outcome. Okay. It's like how
I think you raised a very important issue. Yes. If I can hold you there, Honorable Namuga, you are collectively responsible
And the leader of
for
opposition
allocating.
visited
Yes.
that
Yeah,
factory.
What did
What
you
did you
find?
find?
No, but I was just explaining to him that as
No, what did you find when you visited?
the leader of opposition with us as a team in the shadow cabinet visited the day farmer. What we found was structures. By then, they had not started producing anything. We found machines packed in stores. That was the fact. They were not producing anything.
When was that?
No, Magola said, actually, I made a mistake to get money from Parliament. Because they gave me little money, but the way you were checking on us, every committee is coming here to check on what you gave us. By then, he had gotten, was it close to 700?
20 billion.
So 720 billion. By then, that's why I was inquiring.
Were they making fragile?
No, my dear, there was
there
no production at all. There was no production at all. We just saw structures.
You see?
Actually, we moved around seeing some construction. There was no single production. Actually, the man regretted and was like, how I wish I didn't get this
What
money.
is intriguing me is that the sensitivity that opposition treats some of these issues. On this specific matter, they never came to table a report.
No, Mr. Angela. No, I should put this on record. The leader of opposition read a report on the floor of Parliament. Actually, no, about Magola. And actually, we were challenging. No, yes, we are challenging giving additional money to Magola and even it was Magola, Rocco, and which sugar company was this?
That was before the visit.
No, Rocco is construction, but all those got money.
That was before the
That was
visit.
before the visit. I
let me
remember.
tell you. No, you should
set
get
the ball
this.
rolling. Yeah,
No,
okay.
no,
Let's
let me
go.
tell you. These are facts. These are factual. We were looking at all those agencies that got money from Parliament.
Yes.
Huge sums of money. Day Farmer was part, Rocco was part, and this the
Atiak. That was before the visit.
No, Atiak. No,
That
it
was
wasn't.
before the
We
visit.
had a list of those so many. The report for Day Farmer came up different.
Is there a
because
report on the
There
record?
There is. If you had told me, I would have come with it. The leader of opposition, no, get it from me. The leader of opposition read this report on the floor of Parliament, challenging Parliament giving more money to Day Farmer.
Were your colleagues absent?
No, they were there. I mean,
Actually, for the benefit,
objection.
for the benefit of viewers,
we're objecting
You have
giving
a
him more
recording.
money.
you have a recording of their visit. And they commended his work.
No.
They said,
No,
if
Chimosho,
this can go on,
No,
the
Chimosho,
what we have
no,
So you can review
Let
after
us not
Because
blackmail.
if
No,
just
not.
Namuga,
Yes.
probably for the benefit of the viewers, how would you tell the difference between imported stored material and the material that are succinctly produced by that factory? How would you tell the difference?
Now, when we went to Day Farmer, this is what happened. We were looking for how they had spent the 720 billion. They were giving details. They took us around structures. They said they had imported. They had imported some machines to start production, but the money wasn't sufficient. The reason as to why we went for that visit was they were requesting for more money from Parliament. Then we were like, if they cannot even account for what they have received, how can Parliament give more money? That's when the leader of opposition came up with a report of rejection of giving more money to Day Farmer.
So were they given more money?
They were given later on. They were given more money. And I think for now, they have close to 1.2 trillion as Day Farmer alone. 1.2 trillion.
And they are not producing anything.
No, for since then, we have never gone back.
Because, Simon, you can see the kind of thing you call oversight. I would expect, of course, the opposition to keep following up. If, in fact, now they have been given more money and we don't find anyone either in court or in proper opposition to further...
Yeah, but there is a record here. On the 24th of October, the leader of opposition, Joe Senyonyi, raised a red flag on the
Just
floor
an
of
objection,
Parliament.
not a
yes,
report.
proceed.
Proceed.
He presented, according to the parliamentary website, the leader of opposition has raised concerns over the government's 723.4 billion investment in Day Biopharma, a private pharmaceutical firm. Senyonyi, who presented the report following an oversight visit to the firm, called for greater accountability and transparency regarding the use of taxpayers' money in the pharmaceutical company located in Matugawakiso district. Did he present or he did?
He presented.
What is the fact
No.
there? Please,
Continue. You're
what did he
giving
say?
a preamble.
You see,
Read a
what
bit.
did he say?
Senior
did he
Newland,
say?
an oversight visit today in September, questioned the absence of essential documentation on the government's involvement with the company, particularly regarding its valuation and ownership. There's no evidence that the company was valued by the chief government valuer to ascertain its worth before public funds were
Does he
committed.
talk about production?
No, if there are more
Does
details.
he mention anything about production?
But was there production?
But he ought to have mentioned
No,
that.
but I mean,
That they found
that
the
is
white
is
elephant.
that a whole report?
Because that was the crux
Is
of
that
the
a summary or
That
is the
should have
report?
been.
What is
Okay,
that?
so how do we track the report? I'm naive about this. Okay, help us.
Let me find you something.
Okay, as you proceed,
I wanted to
Yes,
give
as you
information.
proceed.
It is beginning to sound like there was no mention of whether there was production or not.
No,
And
there
this is
was.
key.
That is not a report. What he's reading is not a report.
And
Are
the
you
reason
reading a
why
report?
it is key,
Not.
because we have had here a company called TriStar Garments, where, of course, the key players were Pakistanis. During that period of time, Pakistan's quotas had been closed with the US for export of cotton material. And clearly, Uganda was enjoying the African Growth and Opportunity Act openings. So the Pakistanis would come, use Uganda as a roundabout instead of producing, and export the Pakistani cotton materials to US. So we will always want the oversighting authority to find out exactly, is there production ongoing? Or is it an import-export business? Now, where that is not succinctly done, but instead, the opposition now took stock of different matters, the legalities of formation of companies and what, and shareholding. And
Okay, does this reflect on how wantonly the parliament has been dishing out taxpayers' money? And is it any of the hallmarks for which you can credit or discredit parliament?
Of course, there is a lot of guesswork. One would want to know the competence of the opposition in oversighting, for example, production of medicines. Where was that competence? How did they arrive at the membership that would go and do the oversight? Because if it is not a specialized committee. And for me...
Away from the Magola issue. Away from the Magola issue.
Yes.
How would you rate the way Parliament deliberated on critical issues like the coffee bill, the UPDF amendment?
It was by way of bandwagon effect. I don't think they gave it enough time. It was not. Material were not given enough time. They were only, it was a bandwagon effect. They were only hook, line, and sinker. Because, you see, people who were actually requested to do stuff.
Yes. Namuga got the report.
So we would want her to help the viewers by telling us material to do with actual production.
It's not a signed report. What she's sending you is not signed. So they could have kept it.
It's just a Google.
Because you cannot
How do you Google the report?
Not a signed report.
How do you?
Let me see it.
Don't sign it.
Let me see it.
Then you tell the
Bino,
public on
proceed.
screens that have got the report.
So, Simon, Parliament, and I think now this is a post-mortem. The next Parliament should definitely be more enthusiastic on competencies while doing oversight work.
Namuga is now skeptical.
That is why for
She's
me,
doing what?
Skeptical. She's not.
I am not
sharing
an
the
active enthusiast of a leader of opposition leading a team to oversight. For me, that doesn't make sense. We need specialized committees to do the oversight.
Okay.
Where it is specialized work to be done. And reporting mechanisms are
Even
guaranteed.
if the leader of opposition is going to visit such technical work, you should go with the technical people.
Yes. Because they don't have the competence
But you
to
don't
know
just walk.
what has been done.
So
and what
was
hasn't
for
been
you,
done.
for you, who tells you that they just walk?
you
No,
walk
but
to
you people, I mean,
Matumba
let me ask Honorable Senwanyi. Do you want to inform whoever is listening to us that Parliament has no technical staff and other professionals that assist committees in doing their work?
No.
Is that what you want to mean?
No. when the leader of opposition was going, it was a group, leader of opposition and members of the opposition. It was members of parliament. And there was no clear report. You sent out the signed
No, the report is here.
Is it signed?
The report is here. Yes, it is.
The Google report you're bringing.
No, but if it's Google, you can also Google it.
Signed.
No, if it's Google, please, you can Google and find it.
in.
But we cannot undermine you cannot undermine a role done by opposition. We cannot have scientists that went to the place. The issue was very simple. Mr. Magola received money from Parliament. That was 720 billion.
And you call people
What
for
has this money been used for? As simple as that. Accountability for the money that has been received by Magola. And what were the claims? Even it was not only production, but what constituted the relationship between Magola and government of Uganda. There are a couple of things. We had different objectives.
Well, beside the Magola issue, which other issues are going to haunt the 11th Parliament?
You see, Magola issue won't haunt Parliament, first of all. I need to clear that. Because you need to understand the spirit. When we suffered the COVID hit, the whole country has been trying to innovate. In case something like this happens again, how are we prepared? And that's how many have been encouraged to manufacture items that can run the country in case of any crisis, or even make us self-reliant. Okay. Now, if you give Magola...
Do you walk with your head tall that you were dishing out supplementaries left, right, and center?
You see, I like your framing of questions. Because you kind of present a very dire situation when even does not exist. Anyone could have started from passing the Islamic banking law, which enables people to access free loans. By this parliament, you're castigating.
No, let's talk about supplementaries.
Anyone could have started from fighting homosexuality, which was infiltrating our society, which this parliament has done. Anyone could have started from the better perspective of laws that we have passed as parliament, and even then when you want to present this parliament as if they have given out money, it has given out money in the spirit of building Ugandans to be local manufacturers, to be self-reliant.
Supplementaries.
Yes, supplementaries are provided for in the law.
Yes, one of the typical characteristics of the 11th Parliament have been supplementaries, day in, day out.
No, you see, supplementaries, how do supplementaries come in? They are brought by the executive, and they are brought in to address a specific issue. Do you have any supplementary where you would assure us that it was passed not to address a critical issue in our society?
Honorable Chimosho, one would pose the question, for example, we don't castigate Parliament for giving money, I should say, to bailing out for companies like the Day Farmer. But the whole issue is you give money to Day Farmer, we don't have drugs in hospitals. You cannot pay national medical stores to deliver drugs. You remember that saga when we had failed even to pay transport. So one asks, what is the priority? Because when we went to Magola, the man said, even I didn't ask for the money. He revealed it. I didn't ask for. Yes, he did.
Is it embedded in the report?
He did. He did. So one asks, what is the priority amidst the constrained budget? What is the priority? Give money to attack sugar. Give money to Magola. Give money to local. Trillions of money.
I find it odd that your colleagues have never seen your report.
No, trillions of money. No, it's because they are not interested in it. Were you in Parliament when we presented it? They are not interested. For them, they were interested. It's not all about arguing. One would ask, could you prioritize giving money to individual businessmen than supplying drugs in hospitals? We have domestic arrears of 13 trillions. Ugandans have done business for government. They are not paid. What? Yes, we believe in capitalizing some of these agencies for the benefit of the people. She was asking
me a question.
No.
Okay, fine.
Because she took my time. One, she did not give you the report. Which day? Brought out after, because she announced,
she promised to
10 minutes back, she announced that someone did a good job and was promised to give you a report. I got the benefit of looking at the report she wanted to send you. It was not signed. So there was no report. They visited, came out, what happened, maybe they got medicine from there. that caused total silence.
No, but
that is one.
That is unprofessional.
Can I present?
No, that is unprofessional.
Honorable Namuga, I'm waiting for the report.
That is unprofessional of you. That is unprofessional of you.
No, yes.
No. That is
Let me present.
No, that is unprofessional.
Let me present. We are not here to give marks of who is professional or not. I'm saying you didn't give us the report. And I'm saying you had gone for oversight. In the spirit of parliament, whoever we gave money was to try as much as possible, make Ugandans manufacture, produce for this country, make us self-reliant, and possibly export to the other countries to increase our foreign exchange and stabilize our economy. That was the spirit. Now, these guys on opposition, wherever they want, for whatever reasons they may want to critique that area, then would ask them their input, like we are putting on spot to give us a report they tabled after visiting Magora. And that does not mean that we should not go and scrutinize properly these institutions. By the way, the Auditor General's Office can as well scrutinize Magora because there is government money, can scrutinize Atiak, there is government money, can scrutinize Rubowa, there is government money, and can
I give you information?
And subsequently,
we were denied access to Rubawa if he doesn't.
And subsequently,
we were denied access to Rubawa.
Maybe I first finished the presentation. Okay. And subsequently would hold them accountable because they are not outside our boundaries. But what I wanted to put clear, Kagwanjara and dear viewers, is that this 11th Parliament has done some work that is very commendable for this country. I've told you about the local content bill, which gives Ugandans priority. That if a Ugandan is producing a product X, you are not allowed.
I am standing in for this Ugandan who considers more what has headlined about Parliament.
Yes, but you see, you don't only carry what you know. You should have space in your brains to accommodate what is alien and new to you. And I'm now introducing to you what has been alien and new to you.
Let me, before I get to Honorable Sirwani, Honorable Mbidde, what have been the big headlines about the 11th Parliament, in your opinion?
That is one of them. The curriculum that he developed, where it was identified that the leader of opposition and his team, I am using he because generally we have not had one in the 11th Parliament that is of the opposite gender, that he leads to do any oversight. It has caused untold antagonism, both between government and, of course, the opposition itself. Thank you for letting the population also know that probably there is a need now also to have oversighted the oversight process that the opposition also conducted. Parliament needs to look into that area equally. Number two, we had substantial headlines on material to do with corruption and the negation by Parliament to discuss the same. So the population still are never aware as to whether or not, definitely, corruption that is believed to have been embedded within Parliament itself, the oversighting entity, whether or not that was expunged. You know, because they will need to fear you are the ringleaders of the oversight itself. It's like inviting a dog but with a whip in your hand. Definitely it becomes very hard now for the dog to take a decision to join you. So the population needs to know that they are safer with you. So Parliament, especially now the next Parliament, needs to do a lot of cleaning work.
Well, we'll take a very short break, and definitely when we return we'll be touching. And for the report, where is your report on Nachivubo? Over to you.
You want my answer?
Yes.
Parliament appointed a committee to look at Nachivubo, and we had one visit to that place, and Parliament was sent into recess. And from recess, we are entering electioneering period, and we did not proceed. That's what happened.
So there is no report?
There's no report. Yeah.
So a special committee that was established never took off?
Because 2 days after Parliament
the
was
Speaker thwarted efforts to investigate the redevelopment of Nakivubo, appointed
a committee,
an impromptu committee that never took off.
2 days after Parliament sent to recess, and we were headed for primaries in 3 weeks. You expected me to be in Nakivubo when my primaries are going on in Kazo? Yes.
Honorable Chimosho, that is very unfair of you to the community, because this activity was under Kosase, if I remember.
Yes.
It was withdrawn from Kosase because it had a lot of workload to an ad hoc committee of Chimosho and the colleagues. How I wish you could even give the details of how many of we were on that committee.
It is physical infrastructure.
It was an ad hoc committee, not
maybe
physical.
You need to understand it.
You were assigned the task, and you went for primaries.
The Speaker chose the chairperson of physical infrastructure with a few members. And we started on the process of looking at Nakivubo. We went to Nakivubo. And there was a lot to uncover. And actually, later we came and reported to the Speaker that it is not Nakivubo alone. We need to look at comprehensively the drainage system in Kampala. Otherwise, handling it in piecemeals will not. Now, at that Parliament was going...
So Parliament betrayed you.
Maybe I first explain. Parliament was going in recess. And by the end of recess, we were already in primaries. So, what did you want?
How satisfactory is that?
I doubt, because he has also failed to satisfy himself on this. You cannot claim by any standard, Honorable Chimosho. First of all, he has said it was a physical infrastructure committee. Why did people put it too much on Kimosho? Because people were saying the Kimosho committee. For me, I remember it was an ad hoc committee, not infrastructure committee as such. But even if it was the infrastructure committee, Chimosho, we cannot be that negligent and say, because we are in primaries, people of Kampala, you see the floods in Kampala, everything that is happening, and you claim that, we went for primaries. We came back for elections. But Parliament has been back since elections ended. It is very unfair of us to, to fail to produce reports on claim that we are for elections. Really,
maybe
that reasoning can't stand.
Maybe you listen and I hear it.
You can explain, but I doubt whether that reason flies when it comes to the challenges of Kampala. And remember, it was out of a public outcry. No, it was out of a public outcry. So meaning it was an emergency.
You want to listen?
No, you can submit.
Oh, okay. Good manners to listen. Now, even then, for those businesses that remained on the order paper, today we were forced to put them off because time could not allow. Naturally, the process of electioneering disrupts parliamentary business. And for any member...
So that's how a matter as weighty and critical as Kampala can fizzle out.
You see, I want to help you understand this. The investigation of Nakivubo does not in itself solve a Kampala problem. We instead attempted to solve a Kampala drainage problem by expediting the building control bill, which was processed by my committee. And in that bill, we put serious deterrent measures on illegal structures, on lack of approvals, on what should be done and what should not be done. And if we followed that row, what you're talking about now, the floods, the illegal structures, and the other happenings that have been happening in other cities, leave alone Kampala, then would be a bygone. But handling the Nakivubo alone, yes, you can. Like we handled Lugogo. You remember the Lugogo inquiry of the gentleman who built in a trench? You go there, investigate, you bring the report, put it in Parliament, and because it's piecemeal, there is no solution to it. It happens in another place, it happens in this place, and that was solved in the building control.
What was the rationale of the Speaker of Parliament shifting the matter from Kosase, handing it over to you, well knowing that you never handle it?
The transaction of Parliament business is entirely within the confines and powers of the Speaker. I think at that point she deemed it fit to put it to me and the team, and we came and reported the tentative, and apparently we're going for recess, and we could not proceed.
The mutinous of Parliament on Kampala is telling.
Actually, it was not an ad hoc. It was not the Committee of Infrastructure. They only put the Honorable Kimosho to chair, but it was members picked from different committees, and he created.
So he's not being honest?
No. He's being honest because what is saying that
So
he
which
chaired.
is which?
It was not the committee.
It was never shifted.
I have actually.
Was it the Committee of Infrastructure?
I told him that they picked me as the chairman,
As the chair.
Physical Infrastructure Committee,
Because it's from
and
physical
put a
infrastructure,
few members
from other committees.
from
You
Parliament.
said it was the
To form the-
infrastructure committee.
No,
That's
no,
what you said.
So the committee never took off?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, because work was not done because
So
of... because
Kampala
of-
is going to waste, and Parliament is very mute. People are ravaged by floods on a daily. There are quite a number of issues
I think the
that are
issue-
bedeviling the city, and Parliament is mute.
The issue of Kampala needs to be handled urgently. And I think as we go into the 12th Parliament, it is something that we must
Can it wait?
We must start with. Because you cannot just wake up in the morning and you say, let's do this. It is a big problem that needs structural engineers to sit, plan, and then the problem is sorted. Because people have constructed on wetlands.
No, you've seen it.
You know there are buildings on wetlands.
You've seen a
Look at-
missive
look at-
from
look-
the Lord Mayor and his entire council highlighting a number of issues around Kampala. And Parliament has allowed this report to go and gather dust.
No, right.
Lord Mayor
Chairperson
came,
Infrastructure.
Lord Mayor came to our committee, and he presented minutes for the last almost 5 years, unsigned minutes. And you want to consider them for a report that would later on be of use. But the minutes are not signed. So when I see him ranting on the media and name-calling people, and you're a Lord Mayor, you're a lawyer, you appear before a parliamentary committee with unsigned minutes of the last 5 years, and you want to tell people that you are very serious, it is very unfortunate.
Honorable Mbidde,
Yes.
Kampala transition, audit report on the elections, what should take precedence in the coming days? Or we can shelve this for later?
Kampala has a lot to do with people's lives. Transition, the arguments could be clear depending on where you are looking at it from. When you look at the NRM, they know that the transition was provided for in the Constitution. That you go for a general election, but in the event of death of the president, the vice president takes off. That is the transition. The Democratic Party also thinks about negotiating a better transition. We call it actually a peaceful transition. Actually, to that extent, we have become a mongrel. It is we are a kind of a dog whose species cannot now be ascertained. It has had a lot of crossbreeds to the extent that you can no longer know which type of dog it is. Now, when you look at our parliament, you have also seen our colleagues here. They are running a risk of engaging in what we call mendacious maunda. They may be misunderstood for attempting to tell lies, when actually they are not. But of course, they are being contradictory on matters to do with the Kampala. But what we need to know in Kampala, that the problem lies with government. The Constitution was clear that Kampala, located in Uganda, should be administered by the central government. The Constitution went ahead to tell Parliament to make a law for the administration of Kampala City. But when Parliament made a law, it included administrators, leaders, governors of the city that are not part of the central government. So you don't have one particular person or entity to accuse for anything wrong going.
Bukoli Central, and the only commissioner apparently who survived the onslaught? Well, Honorable Namuga Gores, Member of Parliament, Maogola North?
Maogola County.
Maogola County joins us as well, together with Honorable Chimosho, a Member of Parliament, Kazo constituency. Will also be joined by Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde, former MP Iyala, and the Deputy President of the Democratic Party, making sense of Parliament and what we should be projecting in the days ahead. Good to have you all, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and good evening, all
Well,
the viewers.
Perhaps I should start with you, Honorable Chimosho. There's been a lot of hysteria over the Lumu bill. Today, were you surprised to see Lumu withdrawing his bill?
Thank you very much. And good evening to you, Njala, and colleagues and viewers. Lumu bill, I did not at all get surprised because he had issues he says he wanted to address in the current existing law. And he tells us that when he realized he could not, I saw him here, but also I was in Parliament, that when some of the issues didn't come out well, then he decided to put it aside. But he did not completely withdraw in the spirit of not bringing it back. Because the spirit of withdrawing bills today, it was not Rumu bill alone. There were other bills that were withdrawn, and majorly because we are fighting with time, and the decision is that you push them forward, and then you enrich them in whatever form you want to enrich them, and then the 12th Parliament will handle those bills. The Rumu bill is one of those, but the others that were withdrawn. And I think, principally speaking, I saw him saying that he wanted to achieve a few things, and then people from NRM could not allow him to achieve. You know, when you bring a bill, it is up for debate. It's up for input from all members of Parliament or even the public. Because at some point, we invite the concerned stakeholders to have the input in these bills. So you can't come with a fixed mind that what I want is what will pass. So I think it's part of the democratization that we need to mature up a bit. And when you're dealing with public affairs and public issues, you do not take it as if it's your own personal business, where you find people having a diverging opinion or view. You take that, especially when the majority tell you that this would work better for us. You cannot impose it on them that it would work to the contrary. Democracy requires that when the majority take a direction out of civility, you join them, or even when you dissent, the majority will have to take the day.
But was it anything so significant that it even deserved a second reading at this time?
Yes, of course. You see, legislation keeps evolving. And being that we are a young democracy, many more laws will want to be changed. You will want to amend them. You want to enrich them. So Lumu bill had no problem, in my view. They were good salient issues that maybe would have upgraded our purview on democracy. And then there were other areas that needed to be even removed from the bill on the onset. So I think it was relevant, but only that, in his view, if you don't have it all, then I don't have it. And to me, I think that is a missing gap.
Well, Honorable Namuga, from the onset, there was a sense of resentment towards this bill from the National Inter Platform. Do you feel a bit of relief now that it's off?
First of all, I want to greet the colleagues from the National Resistance Movement, should I say. But these are colleagues in Parliament. My colleague, the Honorable Mukasa Mbidde, in the opposition. And also to you, sir, Happy New Year. This is my first time to appear on this show. And we are in the month of Ramadan.
Amazing.
Yeah. So when one speaks about the remove bill, and then the opposition, the NUP, you said NUP.
The cold feet.
The cold feet on the side of NUP. I want to inform the country that when it comes to legislation, it's not legislation for NUP. We do legislate for and on behalf of the people of the Republic of Uganda. These laws are not made for individuals, but they are made and passed for the good of the country. I want to congratulate the Honorable Lumu Richard. First of all, he has been relieved because he had that pressure from the public. This law wasn't perceived in good faith, first of all, on the side of the public, but also from us, his colleagues from the opposition. One would ask, why did you term it the remove bill? It's because it looked to be so personal on him. When we are interacting with the different agencies, I'm not a member of the Parliamentary Legal Committee, but I went there as an interested party because you have a right as a member of Parliament to attend to any committee just in case you are interested in any subject. But you observe that all the stakeholders that were engaged from all the political divides, even these colleagues from the NRM, in the first place, we thought the Chimoshos Honorable and the Commissioner here, Serani, we thought they were behind the bill. You know, whenever you see something that is controversial, just know NRM can be in the kitchen, it cooks something, then it gives somebody else to serve it. That, in the first place, we thought they are the ones in the kitchen, but Honorable Lumu was helping them to serve. But first of all, when you look at the spirit of the bill, one would ask, how could the Honorable Lumu come up with a bill that would, in the perspective that it was in the good of the opposition, but there was limited consultation from us as his colleagues in the opposition. So that is why it was centered so much on an individual than the opposition, because we would have supported the bill just in case it was in the interest of the opposition.
Yeah, but why from the onset did you suspect that it was sinister?
No, it is because, I mean, we also saw it from on the floor of Parliament. You remember when they went to Gulu, it was Gulu, the first regional parliament. That is where the honorable member was given leave to. I mean, that is the first day the bill was. Honorable Mu was given leave to start on the process of handling the bill. One would ask, there are so many issues that were supposed to be handled in the regional session in Gulu. But what was so much, I mean, pressurizing Honorable Lumu to have that kind of bill, introduced in Gulu. But that aside, the consultation within us as his colleagues, because Honorable Lumu is part of us in the opposition. So we thought it would have been a consultative process, the fact that he was doing it in the interest of the opposition. Number two, when you look at the object of the bill, number one, have the lead of opposition, much as the ruling, he said, it is, his proposal was that the leading party in the opposition would bring a proposal, say, of 3 names. Then we have an election on those 3. But when we go for elections, people make a choice. People have already, in this multi-party dispensation, people made a choice. If you go for an election, whether NRM was rigged or not, they have been sworn in as the leading party. Automatically, NUP is the leading party in the opposition. That doesn't mean that we don't work as a team when it comes to administration. So the proposal of electing the leader of opposition, first of all, to me, that was very outrageous. Number two, that the chairpersons of committees, the shadow cabinet, would also be brought. The proposal was that it would be a discussion of all the parties in the opposition. Those are administrative issues. So if there are leakages on his part,
he's pushing for inclusiveness.
No, inclusiveness is administrative. I don't see any challenges in the current law. In any case, I would have advised the Honorable Lumu, if he had internal grudges with the leadership, he would have come on table to have this discussed, because he was part of us. People were complaining, you see, for some had reservation that, NUP would take most of the positions, which wasn't the case. But even the numerical strength, NUP had 57 members, so we would distribute the positions within ourselves. I can give you an example. We have four committees: accountability, but one of them, the Park local government, the chairmanship is for Honorable Olanya. He's not a member of NUP. Honorable Olanya is FDC. So when you look at the shadow cabinet, Honorable Finance Minister, Honorable Semuju, is from FDC. Honorable Dul was one of our ministers. So, I mean, for me, we did not see any reason as to why our colleague would come up with a law that, I mean, that has nothing to, in any case, it was redundant.
Are you relieved?
No, he's relieved because the pressure was much on him than us.
Honorable Sirwanyi, as someone who is very familiar with the way bills are drafted, the lobbying, and of course the consultations, do you think Lumu's bill, right or wrong as it appeared, was lost in sentiment over what it sought to cure?
First of all, I want to greet our colleagues and all the Ugandans that are viewing us this evening. What I want to tell you is that Lumu is just managing the issue of time because this bill has been caught up by time. But I'm sure, and given my experience in Parliament, this is a bill that is going to come back. Because when you look at our Rule 245, it talks about the lapse and reinstatement of parliamentary business upon dissolution of Parliament. So we have about 1 month to go. And when you're looking at our Constitution, Parliament ends the day members of Parliament are going to be sworn in. When you read from Article 79 and you see the dissolution of Parliament. So this Parliament is coming to an end, I think, in a month's time, and Lumu is caught up with time. That is why he has withdrawn this bill. But I'm sure a member is going to come up with this bill because this is a very good bill. It is a very good bill because members of the opposition have been a parliamentary commissioner. I was a deputy government chief whip in the 10th Parliament, you remember very well. So members of the opposition complain, they are suffocated. The other parties, the other time it was FDC that was in leadership. And still other parties could complain, UPC would have issues, the leader of opposition is not supporting them. They were not moving together. This time it has been the National Unity Platform in the 11th Parliament, and still the same is coming up. So the only thing that is going to chew and see that the opposition in Parliament is working together is giving them an opportunity to choose their own leader. I was one person who supported Lumu in Gulu, and I'm sure he has withdrawn this bill just because he has been caught with time, and the time is over, and members are withdrawing businesses that will again be reinstated in the 12th Parliament. So I'm sure a member of the opposition will
Okay, when you do deep scrutiny, is it good in its entirety, or it's about the clauses, especially the one on appointment of LOP?
No. When you look at the whole bill, it is rich. You know, what governs us as the Parliamentary Commission is the Administration of Parliament Act and as members of Parliament. So when you look at what Lumu is talking about, the ingredients, getting a law, how you do business, both in the position and in the party, when you look at the whole bill, it is a very good bill.
How regrettable is it that it was never given sufficient time?
No, it will be given because it is only unfortunate that it will not be brought by Lumu, but I'm sure a member of the opposition is going to bring this bill. And when it comes up, some of us will support them to see that the bill
of all the
does not get a
issues that the
stillbirth.
country is grappling with, how would Parliament choose the Lumu bill, even for a second reading, to appear on the order paper?
The main role of Parliament is legislation. And when you look at the administration of Parliament, that governs how Parliament is run. How Parliament is run gives the opportunity for the country to get the best laws. Because if you don't organize your in-house and how things are done, you cannot deliver. So the way you organize, the level of organization, the way, for example, that bill is going to chew their leadership in the opposition. So it improves on legislation, and then the product, the bills that will pass in Parliament, and that improves the quality of debate, the leadership. So you cannot say that we are handling critical issues, but how are you handling the critical issues without putting the house in order? So it is important first put your house in order, and that is what the Lumu bill was talking about on the side of the opposition, so that they are together.
Honorable Mbidde, what's your take on the sensation, the hysteria, and the sudden withdrawal that characterized the Lumu bill?
Thank you, Simon. First of all, also, let me greet my colleagues who are here and the viewers. Honorable Mu came to the Democratic Party to consult on that bill.
His mother party.
Yes. At least for the purpose of, obviously, the completion of this term. I looked at the bill. I wanted to find out what is, I would have used that word, but you see people now, but there is no other word I would use. What is the prolegomena of the bill itself? What is the intent and the purpose of the bill? What is the objective reason that makes it a logical necessity for such a bill to be introduced in Parliament? I think now I'm more clear. The audience will not accuse me. Now, first of all, I saw that it is an act in self-delusion. That anyone who thinks we have got a leader of opposition. You see, if you want to look at the Administration of Parliaments Act and you want to read it properly, use a purposive approach. Use the approach of understanding the roles of that person called a leader of opposition. You'll find, first of all, understand that this is a leader of a minority party in Parliament. In fact, other jurisdictions call him a minority leader. You don't vote for a minority leader. You see, and that is where our people will always go wrong. They tell you 1 p.m. is a rush hour. You begin to think that everybody is rushing. There is actually no movement at all. But it's a rush hour. Now, in Uganda, they will legislate and say this is an act for the formation or the establishment of an independent electoral commission. You don't rush to think that it is independent. Use a purposive approach. Find out who appoints the commission. If it is one of the candidates, then forget about the nomenclature. Look at the law. So in Uganda, we have a presidential system of administration. The president, who, for all intents and purposes, is the winner of a recently concluded election, forms government. Accordingly, the minority party are the losers of that election. They equally form one. Now, you cannot say that the other one is formed, this one we shall elect. The elections were concluded in the general election. What is generally being done is the appointment of cabinet, either shadow or the substantive. Now, where it involves other political parties, those are alliances at parliamentary level. They may not even include them. So for me, what I would think is where Parliament now should focus their minds and brains, the role of other political parties within the dispensation. And if they cannot amend the Administration of Parliament Act.
Yeah, but for starters, you need to interrogate the spirit. Lumu says it was meant to streamline the administration of the opposition and to bring inclusivity.
I don't know whether he has read the law. The law equates that law to a prime minister of government. So are you going to also vote for a prime minister? This is just a guy appointed by his party as a minority, a leader of a minority party in that parliament.
To lead the entire opposition.
The figment, the chimera of a fertile imagination that people generally at their subconscious level obtain while somebody is being called a leader of opposition is what is misguiding most people. To think that there is even anything to be legislated upon. This is just a minister.
No, you seem to be pouring scorn on the relevance of the Lop's office.
It is it is as relevant as a minister of the party who is leading the minority party, on the opposition. If we want to establish a leader of opposition, we go Westminster. We do a parliamentary system where the winner of the election is the prime minister in parliament. Accordingly, at the opposite side of the aisle, there is a leader of opposition who is the loser. So This is not what we are doing. Except if we adopt, of course, because these are, except if we do Westminster like Pakistan, we do our parliamentary like the UK. Here, this is a presidential system guided by one provision. All power belongs to the people. The people definitely did their work.
Well, as we get off this matter, how much did this Lumu bill expose of the rifts within the opposition, given the kind of resentment he received?
I don't know. But you see, we survived because he could very easily have such a bill passed. I do not know what would become of the minority party. The party that came second, because there are two manifestos that were presented to the population. One carried the day, one almost also carried some opinion. It got 2 million supporters. Now, if it is this manifesto to definitely now be the protagonist in oversighting the other, and you take away that power, then for me, I don't know. What is left for a party like NUP, for example, to participate in the practices of parliament in Uganda?
Was it suicidal in the first place?
It was
for the opposition.
It was a logical impossibility. And if anybody actually thought, for me, if it was passed, then Parliament would have convinced me that they have got a very great sense of humor if they passed it. Why would anyone pass it? What would be the role of a party that came second in a recently concluded general election? The President of the Republic of Uganda, knowing who he is and how he acts, he would never assent to such a bill. This is a man who knows that if you want to take over, if you want to capture Kampala, you must leave Jinja as the escape route. You do not do it in such a way that the man you want to take over has no escape route. You want him to run away so that you form government. This is the breather for the opposition.
The Lop's office is a breather, right?
It is a breather. That is where they begin to vent or bambulate throughout all the precincts of parliament and say, we are now catching the man by his, what I cannot mention here. So I can tell you that if we obliterate that, then obviously you have closed out opposition, and in my opinion, it is a recipe for disaster.
Honorable Chimosho, during the processing of this bill, what came out prominently for you, especially in the way the opposition reacted towards Lumu?
You know, first of all, I don't believe this tendency of thinking that we should do it like A, B, C, D, whether America or Britain or Pakistan. They have developed their systems over time. We can develop a hybrid of those systems, of our own system, and it can work as long as it can work for us. Lumu bill, looking at it in detail, it is not only about the lead of opposition. Actually, some of the proposals in that bill, he proposed that the opposition, the deputy speaker, that there should be a deputy speaker who comes from
The opposition
side. Now, I mean, is that a plus or minus?
No, that wouldn't happen except if we amended the Constitution.
I'm giving you the content. I don't want us to stick on one, the leader of opposition. He had other ideas. And in the processing of the bill, when these ideas are presented, the stakeholders are invited and they give the input. Then you process and get the fine product out of it. But again, if Lumu is a member of opposition and he's not comfortable with how issues are managed, and you are talking about a democracy, where does it start and where does it end? If he puts his proposals on how things can be done better, in his view, when does that become wrong? Because you're saying it's democracy, it is people's views, it is... So if he comes to Parliament and convinces members that this can work, and members buy into his ideas, and I think then, if it comes back to 12th Parliament, then, Honorable, we shall not disappoint Honorable Mbidde to confirm to him that we have a high sense of humor. Because part of the content of the bill, some of us agree with it, and we shall support it. So if he really wants to like us or hate us for the high sense of humor, he should be preparing. Because he had good ideas that I think we can refine, eject some, bring in more, and then we come up with a polished law that would address the issues that he proposed to address within the law.
To what extent, Honorable Namuga, did the Lumu bill expose the rifts within the opposition?
Hearing from the submission of the Honorable colleague Chimosho, for him, he seemed to be so much interested in how the opposition runs its house, which is so good as a member of parliament, because you must be interested on either side. But when you speak about the rift, I doubt whether there is any rift. Because in any organization, conflicts will arise. You will not find, an organization that is peaceful throughout. That's why in the first place I informed you that, do you think Rumu's issue, if he had any person of vendetta, do you think that would call for an amendment of a whole law? The administration of parliament, do you think that calls for a huge expenditure? And we should inform the country that processing the bill is an expense. It doesn't move as free as you may think. That's why you have preliminary consultation. That's why we have technical teams to look through this and see, does it even have to pass this stage? For me, I would wonder how it even came to the floor of parliament. Because Rumu ought to have been advised prior. The Honorable Mbidde tells you he belongs to this party. Actually, DP would have endorsed this bill. Because if Rumu belongs to DP, whether he has conflicts with his party or not, at least he belongs to the DP. He ought to have consulted his party before even coming to us others. But even if he missed out on that component, we should not take legislation for a ride. Honorable Chimosho ably knows that any law that is brought on the floor of parliament from day one, that is an expense to the consolidated fund. That is why we have preliminary processes that we go through to have some of these brought to the floor processed before coming to the floor of parliament. So when you look at the side of the opposition, not opposition alone, but even NRM themselves, we have a lot of issues. We had issues with the Parliamentary Commission. So many of these have been happening. What law did we change to put the Parliamentary Commission to order? Which law was brought? So I told you prior that some of these colleagues of ours went to the kitchen and cooked a meal. But because it would look awkward for Honorable Chimosho to come on the floor, bringing amendments in the Administration of Parliament Act on the side of the opposition. So they sit and agree that once you do this, please have somebody to carry it on your behalf. That is why they can, with a lot of vigor come out and say.
So Rumu was bidding for the Chimoshos?
No, these ones, definitely. Definitely, this was their move. But all that said and done, I want to inform the country that legislation must be in the interest of the people. In the interest of the people. Whether you have sentiments, not personal or as a group, it must be in the interest of the country.
Yeah, but of all issues,
yes,
this matter getting onto the order paper speaks volumes, doesn't it?
No, that's why I was telling you, Chimosho must have been part of this. That's why he speaks with a lot of... Because...
Speak of parliament.
No. Let me tell you one thing. When you look at the whole, the process that Honorable Lumu went through to have this bill on the floor of parliament, I'm telling you, it was premature. It was very premature. Everyone got surprised on the way that bill came to the floor. And when it went to the committee, Honorable Chimosho and Mr. Commissioner Honorable knows that no single party, even the NRM, not even the DP, all of us, no single party supported the Lumu bill. Even I wondered, when it came to the floor of parliament, I looked through the report of the legal and the legal committee. I looked through the report, but I wondered where they got some of those resolutions, because as you do process bills, you get feedback from those that you've interacted with. So one wonders, how could that bill succeed on the floor when it was rejected by all those that were consulted? How could it succeed on the floor of parliament? Because then the essence of consultation loses meaning.
Honorable Honorable Sirwanyi, you're commissioner of all issues.
I was a member.
As Parliament resumes, the country waited with bated breath to see the business that was being discussed. And kaboom, there was the Lumu bill.
No. There was no discussion about the Lumu bill.
I mean on the order paper. On getting it onto the order paper, raised eyebrows.
When you looked at the order paper of today, you must have seen it was a very crowded order paper. Why it was like that is because of the time that we are coming to an end, and most bills, when Parliament is coming to an end, you either struggle to save business to be pushed to the next Parliament, or business will collapse with the end of Parliament. So some of the bills had to be withdrawn, and you saw the Lumu bill being withdrawn. And let's not look at this bill as something that is, because when I listened to Honorable Namuga saying that the bill was premature, first of all, it is a right.
And cooked by you.
It is a right of any member of Parliament to go and seek leave and go and bring his proposal that I want to amend this law because he brings his suggestions. And when you're going to bring up a bill, or when you're bringing a bill, you're supported by the First Parliamentary Council, you're supported by the legal department of Parliament, the ministry that is concerned. I mean, it is not something that you come up with one day and boom, you throw it down. I think Lumu had very good proposals, and it is also not right to say that in the Committee of Legal everything was rejected. No, not everything was rejected. There were people who came and stakeholders who came, and I cannot remember offshoot, but there were people who came and they were in support of Lumu. And also, those people come to the committee to give their opinions, but they don't guide you that after giving us this opinion, you decide according to our opinion. No, their role, stakeholders come and tell you as members of the Legal and Parliamentary Committee, this is my opinion. But then you sit independently as the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs
as a commissioner,
and you take a decision.
As a commissioner, in the pecking order of priorities for the nation to discuss, where would you find time and relevance and space for such a redundant bill?
You cannot call it redundant. And also you cannot say where do you find it. Because I told you that...
Is it so critical?
Unless you're saying...
The country is just emerging from an election.
Unless you're saying that Parliament and the work that Parliament is doing is not that critical. This bill is in the administration of Parliament. And it is until you organize your house that you can deliver well. Because you cannot be having challenges inside your house and you're saying that you're delivering. So this is just a bill that was trying to reorganize Parliament. And I think it is okay. You bring it up, reorganize, then you move forward. Because once you're organized inside, once you're organized in the house, then you move better.
Honorable, with your seniority in legislation,
yes,
does this bill making it on the order paper speak anything about the business and the priorities of the 11th Parliament?
I have got a feeling they were being lumped up for purposes of shelving. And that such business had to show itself on the floor, on the order paper, for purposes of a decision to be taken thereby. But I can safely give advice as an advocate of courts of judicature to advise my colleagues here. We need to take a lot of care when attempting to amend acts, statutes, to the extent that, because I have heard my colleagues saying there are other matters that were also for consideration, including establishment of a third deputy speaker. Now, the Constitution is extremely succinct on speaker and deputy speaker. Particularly, I think it is either Article 82 or thereby. For you to establish an act of parliament that contravenes the Constitution, first of all, it must be couched in terms that you are amending the Constitution succinctly, not by infection of an act passed. Number two, we also need to understand that the country went into a multi-party political dispensation. under the political parties, under the Referendum and Other Provisions Act, I think 2000, the population chose to go multi-party. So whether a political party annoys you or not, it has got its right to participate in the affairs of state. And this is where now members of parliament need to, first of all, also now curtail their own sensibilities, where they find that, for example, NUP is, the acts by NUP, in their opinion, are recalcitrant. They still need to exist and participate in the affairs of state in the manner chosen by them. Because these are people that find themselves on the floor of parliament by the decision of the people. Where the constitution is to the extent that power belongs to the people. If you want to do anything that usurps those powers, you must do within the precincts of the powers given to you as members of parliament. When you look at the bill, there are many other things that are actually should have been done by amending the rules of parliament, for example. Why don't you amend the rules of parliament and establish, for example, the participatory processes of other political parties vis-a-vis the substantive minority party that actually produces a leader, a minority leader? So for me, I know that the whole country is getting lost. Our parliament is getting lost merely because they believe there is somebody called the leader of opposition. And the other parties also that are on the opposition believe that this leadership should be there. Part of their contribution should be how we arrive at this leader.
Honorable, do you imagine Parliament is blind to critical business, that they can entertain this matter to be?
There is a, for me, what I think, there is a problem where leaders obtain axiomatic faith in a political process, which tends now to, of course, blind their own independent beliefs in the manner in which we need to progress. Some actors now want to begin to think that what they are doing is actually palatable to the ruling system. That's why they keep measuring. Do you think the state would want this? Do you think this is... You find even some members of parliament in the corridor asking, why don't you tell us what the position is? Now, this can cause a very big problem. I have seen many establishments. I have looked at almost all the constitutions of the world. I know what they are trying to do might have the end game of obliterating opposition opinion. And that can be now a casus belli for activities that can even end into war. Not particularly by those that have lost, but by those that can ride on the sentiments of what you are producing.
We want to end on this, and as we take a very short break, you had something to say.
It is exactly 1 hour since we started discussing Lumu bill here. And you are wondering why Parliament would give it time. You have equally given it time, 1 hour. That's how important the bill has
because
become.
In the dying minutes of the Parliament, of all things that Parliament chose to be